60 Minutes. Rewind.
Right now, there's a war taking place in the heart of Africa, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and more people have died there than in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Darfur combined. You probably haven't heard much about it, but it is the deadliest conflict since World War II. Within the last 10 years, more than 4 million people have died, and the numbers keep rising. As we found when we went there a few months ago, the most frequent targets of this hidden war are women. It is, in fact, a war against women, and the weapon used to destroy them, their families, and whole communities is rape. We want to warn you, some of what you'll see and hear in this report is disturbing. So 6 women were attacked on Friday. Dr. Denis Mukwege is the director of the Panzi Hospital in eastern Congo. In this war against women, his hospital is the front line.
So one of them are here.
One of the latest victims is Sifa Mikatambala. She was raped 2 days ago by soldiers who raided her village.
They just cut her at many places.
With a machete?
Yeah.
Sifa was pregnant, but that didn't stop her rapists. They even cut her at her genitals.
Yeah.
In the last 10 years in Congo, hundreds of thousands of women have been raped, most of them gang raped. The hospital is full of them. All these women have been raped?
Yeah.
They've all been patients of yours? Within a week, Dr. Mukwege says this room will be filled with new faces, new victims.
You know, they're in deep pain, but it's not just physical pain. It's psychological pain that you can see. Here at the hospital, we've seen women who've stopped living.
Are all the people you treat adults?
No. There are children. I think the youngest was 3 years old.
3 years old.
And the oldest was 75.
To understand what's happening here, you have to go back more than a decade. When the genocide that claimed nearly 1 million lives in neighboring Rwanda spilled over into Congo. Since then, the Congolese army, foreign-backed rebels, and homegrown militias have been fighting each other over power and this land, which has some of the world's biggest deposits of gold, copper, diamonds, and tin. The United Nations was called in, and today their mission is the largest peacekeeping operation in history. Since 2005, some 17,000 UN troops and personnel have cobbled together a fragile peace. Last year, they oversaw the first democratic election in this country in 40 years. But now all that they've accomplished is at risk. Fighting has broken out once again here in eastern Congo, and the region threatens to slip into all-out war. Each new battle is followed by pillaging and rape. Entire communities are terrorized. Forced to flee their homes, people take whatever they can and walk for miles in the desperate hope of finding food and shelter. Over the last year, more than 500,000 people have been uprooted. A fraction of them make it to these cramped camps where they depend on UN aid to survive. This camp sprang up just 2 months ago. It's already overcrowded, but more people keep arriving. They come here seeking refuge, a safe haven, but the truth is, in Congo, for women, there's no such thing. Even in these supposedly protected camps, women are raped every single day. Has rape almost become the norm here?
I think because of the widespread nature of the war, because there has been so much violence, rape is now on a daily basis, rape is the norm.
Annika van Woudenberg is the senior Congo researcher at Human Rights Watch. Women get raped in wars all the time. How is it different here?
I think what's different in Congo is the scale and the systematic nature of it. Indeed, as well, the brutality. This is not rape because soldiers have got bored and have nothing to do. It is a way to ensure that communities accept the power and authority of that particular armed group. This is about showing terror. This is about using it as a weapon of war.
It's hard to imagine this war happening in the midst of such breathtaking beauty and abundance. But after decades of dictatorship and corruption, this country is broken. Most of the fighting and the raping takes place in remote areas difficult to get to. We're heading to a place called Walungu. It's an isolated village in the mountains of eastern Congo. For years, there have been armed groups fighting in this region. Thousands of men who emerged from the forest to terrorize villages and steal women. Congo's government seems unable or unwilling to stop them. In the last week alone, there have been 3 attacks in which women have been raped. The youngest victim was just 6 years old. In some villages, as many as 90% of the women have been raped. Men in the villages are usually unarmed and incapable of fighting back. In Walungu, we found 24-year-old Lucien Murrow. She was at home one night with her 2 children and her younger brother when 6 soldiers broke in. They tied her up and began to rape her one by one.
I was lying on the ground, and they gave a flashlight to my younger brother so that he could see them raping me.
They were telling your brother to hold the flashlight?
Yes. They raped me like they were animals, one after another. When the first one finished, they washed me out with water, told me to stand up so the next man could rape me.
She was convinced they'd kill her, just as soldiers had murdered her parents the year before. Instead, they turned to her brother.
They wanted him to rape me, but he refused and told them I cannot do such a thing. I cannot rape my sister. So they took out their knives and stabbed him to death in front of me.
Lucienne was then dragged through the forest to the soldiers' camp. She was forced to become their slave and was raped every day for 8 months. All the while, she had no idea where her children were.
Did you know if they were alive or dead?
I was thinking that they had been killed. I didn't think I would find them alive.
Finally, Lucienne escaped. Back in her village, she found her 2 little girls were alive. But she also learned that she was pregnant. She was carrying the child of one of her rapists. Lucienne's husband abandoned her, and that happens to rape survivors all over Congo.
I used to think that when men fled, they were irresponsible. But now I understand things differently. They haven't fled because their wives have been raped, but because they feel they've been raped. They have been traumatized because they couldn't fight back, humiliated, because they weren't able to do anything to protect their wives and children.
When a woman is raped, it's not just her that's raped, it's the entire community that's destroyed.
What is the program? Judith Registre is with an organization called Women for Women. They run support groups for survivors of rape.
When they take a woman to rape her, they'll line up the family, they'll line up other members of the communities to actually witness that.
They make them watch.
They make them watch. And so what that means for that particular woman when it's all over is that total shame personally to have been witnessed by so many people as she's being violated.
Many of the women in Dr. Mukwege's hospital are not only blamed for what happened to them, they're shunned because of fears they've contracted HIV, and shunned because their rapes were so violent they can no longer control their bodily functions.
So you're doing about 5 surgeries a day?
Yeah.
Dr. Mukwege's patients often have had objects inserted into their vaginas, broken bottles, bayonets. Some women have even been shot between the legs by their rapists.
Why would somebody do that? Why would somebody shoot a woman inside?
In the beginning, I was asking myself the same question. This is a show of force, of power. It's done to destroy the person. Sex is being used to commit evil. People flee, they become refugees. They can't get help. They become malnourished, and it's disease which finishes them off.
For these women, Dr. Mukwege is both healer and counselor. Dunia Karani is an orphan. She has polio and can't walk, but that didn't stop soldiers from raping her. Now she's pregnant and has no idea how she'll cope.
What do you say to a young girl? What do you tell her about her future?
The most difficult thing is when there is nothing I can do. When I see a 16-year-old, a pretty 16-year-old who's had everything destroyed, and I tell her that I have to give her a colostomy bag. That is difficult.
Despite those difficulties, more often than not, Dr. Mukwege is able to repair the damage to these women's bodies. They see him as a miracle worker, one of the only men they can trust.
She's very happy.
This gives you hope.
Yeah.
It gives you strength to continue.
Yeah.
The story will continue after this.
Strength is something few women in Congo lack. They bear the burdens, farm the fields, and hold the families together. Yet nothing, it seems, is being done to protect them. The war is so widespread that rapes are increasingly being committed by civilians. A few washed-out billboards tell men that rape is wrong, but there's little evidence Congolese officials take the problem seriously. In the prosecutor's office, the complaints pile up. We were told a $10 bribe could get a rape accusation investigated, but few cases ever go to court. We asked the prosecutor to show us the prison to see how many rapists were actually behind bars. But when we got there, we were in for a surprise. The prison had no fences, and the guards had been kicked out. The inmates had taken over the asylum.
The fact is the justice system is on its knees in Congo. I can count on one hand the number of cases that we're aware of that have been brought to trial. Literally here, people get away with rape, they get away with murder. The chances of being arrested are nil.
There may be no justice here, but there are organizations trying to help rape survivors get back on their feet. Women for Women teaches survivors how to make soap, how to cook, skills they can use to earn money. They also learn how to read and write. It is the first time many of these women have ever been in a classroom. It is their chance for a whole new life. Remember Lucien Murrow? She's jumped at that chance. She hopes to start her own business one day. And that little child she holds, that's the child of one of the soldiers who raped her, one of the men who killed her brother. A baby girl, born a year ago. A baby girl Lucien named Luck.
I named her Luck because I went through many hardships. I could have been killed in the forest, but I got my life back. I have hope.
Hope is not something you'd expect Congo's rape survivors to still cling to, but they do. Each morning in Panzi Hospital, they gather to raise their voices. Our sufferings on earth, they sing, will be relieved in heaven. Relief in Congo, it seems, is just too much to ask for.